LadyLucidity ASMR. Hello there, my lovelies. Very long time no see. I am so happy that I'm finally back to recording videos for you guys. For those of you who don't follow my social media, I have been ill for the past almost a month now. I still have a bit of a cough and my voice is mostly back, so I couldn't wait to jump back in to making videos for you guys. I did get into a bit of a slump while I was ill, really wanting to record but frustrated that I couldn't, so it feels good to be back making things and sharing them with you guys. For today's video, I'm going to be working with oven bake clay. So anyone who's not familiar, oven bake clays tend to be harder to start with. You have to really work them with the warmth of your hands to get it to a soft consistency, and then once you are done modelling, you pop it in the oven to harden, and that's the process. So for today I'm going to be making some fantastical creatures, and then once they are done I'm going to cover them in my Mod Podge, which you know I love. So I have this giant block of Fimo. This is the pure white, and the reason for this is so that I can just paint it later. So just a nice neutral colour, and it doesn't matter too much if it gets marks on it or things like that, because I'll be painting over it later. And I also grabbed this small pack of different colours just to experiment. So this is a product that I've not actually used before. I tend to use traditional, like, softer clays. That's just personal preference. I find it easier to work with, but I thought I would give this another shot, as I did try it in the past and it was mostly successful, so this is going to be a fun challenge for me. So, as I said, today I'm going to be making some fantasy creatures. I have a few sketches that I did while I was sick, of things I would love to make into miniature sculptures. I've been very inspired by my garden lately, watching the snails and little critters and things like that, and I'm really big into like fairies and toadstools and things like that. So I got very inspired just from sitting in my garden. So these are the colours that I picked out in the Brights pack, I believe it is. You can find these on Amazon. They come in this cute little tray that I might save for later. So this is some video footage of me just drawing out one of my design ideas. I tend to sketch out what I want to make before I make it, when it comes to my sculpture work anyway. If I'm just doing a general fantasy drawing, it just comes straight from my head onto paper, but for sculpture work I like to plan a little bit. So here I'm using my Staedtler watercolour pencils, and you'll see, you've probably seen me use these before. You just dab a little bit of water onto the surface and they mix just like watercolour paints would. I find these super satisfying to work with and pretty easy. It does vary between brands. I have a mix of 2 different ones here. So I'm just filling in the area around, and this is a mix between a turtle and a mushroom or a toadstool. I wanted to try and combine like animals and creatures with like plants. So I've been drawing a lot of sort of dragons mixed with like different fruits, and that sort of thing. And I was on Instagram a lot while I was sick and actually found a couple of artists that do very similar things to what I've been drawing, so it's obviously quite a popular subject. But I love this sort of mash-up idea, and I've seen other people are now doing it as well, so just come around here. I did debate whether to put these drawings into little frames. Maybe put them like alongside those little sculptures on a shelf. That could be quite a nice way to like display them. So you guys will have to let me know if you like this idea, because I have a whole sketchbook full of little drawings like this. I have another one which is a cross between a dragon and a goldfish, which I've started making. So yeah, if you guys could let me know if you'd like me to do more videos like this where I make things out of clay. Okay, so again just add the water and just pull it down here. So I did end up actually layering this part of the turtle up. So what I did was I did my watercolour pencils, and then I decided that the colour wasn't really intense enough for me, or like a bright, so I ended up going over it in some water pens, and then again with some colouring pencils. I do love a bit of mixed media, you know, just trying out different materials, layering them up, seeing what effects I can create. That's something I encourage you guys to try at home if you are into sort of arts and crafts. Just to experiment. So this was my little picture, pretty much finished. I did put some Mod Podge gloss over his shell to give it a shine, and this then gave me the base for my turtle. So here you'll see I'm using like a peach colour and a white, and here is my acrylic paint, and I'm going to use this later on with some other colours to bring him to life, essentially. Okay, so I'm just going to mould his shell first of all. I really wanted it to be like a hollow sort of dome rather than just one solid piece, so it could fit over the body. Okay, now I'm just going to manually mould the edges down, give it that proper dome shape, so it looks more like the top of a toadstool. Just smooth it out a little bit. Okay, so that's starting to look good. Okay, I'll just put that to one side, and now I'm going to use this peachy colour to do his body parts. So I need to try to work out how to divide it up, so to say. Okay, so I'm going to taper it off, so one end is going to be slimmer than the top, and now I'm just going to lightly move the head around, try and get it into the right sort of shape, although it looks a bit like a worm at the moment. So just smooth him out. Pop that there. Okay. So with oven bake clay, you have to be 100% sure where you want things to be, because once it's baked, it's then rock solid and very difficult to move around. So now I'm going to just push this down here, just to give the illusion that there's something under there. Okay, and just mould it around the base. There we go. Perfect. Now he looks like a snail. So for the rest of it, I need to divide up for the legs. So just roll it out, make sure it's nice and smooth, and then divide up each piece. Okay, and then again I'm just flattening the end so that it can shimmy underneath the shell like this, give it a little pinch. Now he's got little legs. I apologise now that obviously these are not going to be 100% accurate animals for obvious reasons. I just wanted to create something with a little bit of whimsy to it. Okay, so now he's got his little back flippers. Looking good. Okay, just adjust the head. Make sure everything's looking good. Okay. Okay, so now to work on his front legs. I do have to say there is one perk, or I guess two perks, of using oven clay as to my traditional clay. One is this is slightly less messy. As anyone who's worked with like regular clay before will know, you need to use quite a bit of water and it can get very sticky and messy very quickly. Whereas this is slightly tacky now that I've been working it with my hands. But definitely a lot less messy. And also when you put this in the oven, it hardens pretty quickly, so you could churn out quite a few of these in a short amount of time, whereas air drying clay would obviously take longer and tends to be a little bit more brittle in some respects if you're not careful. So it just depends what you're actually making it for. So, interesting little fact, the turtle was the first drawing I did for this series of creatures. And it was because my little boy Jace, he's 5 now. It was his birthday a couple of days ago, and he is really into sea creatures. So he loves whales, sharks, turtles, like jellyfish, all that sort of thing. And when I finished the turtle and put it in our living room, he was like, wow. He just was constantly picking it up and looking at it, so I feel like it's quite convincing as a turtle. But this might prompt me to make more sea creatures, I think. Trying to think what I could combine them with. So, like, make a jellyfish that actually looks like jelly. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe you guys can give me some inspiration in the comments. What kind of sea creature mashup would you like to see? And I will see if I can make it. So, now to give this little guy some texture, I'm going to add these tiny little pieces onto his little flippers. Just press them in. There we go. I'm going to do a few on each limb, and then I'm going to put a handful probably on his neck and face, just squeeze one in under there. So this is to give the illusion of like that sort of scaly sort of texture that these kind of animals seem to have. And once I've put him in the oven and he's all like cooled down and ready to go, I can then paint these. Really make them pop. Okay, so here I'm just painting the first layer of the red, and it did take me 3 coats to get it smooth and looking really like vibrant against the white. And then you'll notice these little bits on the top, and I painted those white later on. Just go around the edge here, and I left it for about sort of half an hour each layer to dry. It dried pretty quickly actually. And a little tip, if you are using this sort of clay for the first time, make sure when you take your creation out of your oven that you leave it to cool for a little bit. Do not attempt to pick it up straight away. So this is after I've painted the body, and I did 2 layers of the gloss Mod Podge, and I decided, as he was a like garden kind of mushroom turtle, that he needed a bit of green to really make the red pop and give it some added texture. So I mixed my leaf green with this metallic sort of light green colour, and I'm not covering him completely, I'm just sort of sporadically popping some green on here and there. I really think this brought the whole thing together, and it just sort of looks like he's got like maybe moss or something just on him. It kind of reminds me of a film I once saw, and I cannot remember the name, but it was an island that was a turtle. If anybody knows that film. But it was very similar to this. It was just a giant island that was on the back of a turtle. I think it might have been, was it Dragon Ball? I can't remember, but anyway, this is the finished critter. This is my little turtle guy. He doesn't have a name yet, but he sits in my living room. So this is creature number 2. So I'm not giving you just 1 today, I'm giving you 3. So for this one I am using the white again primarily, and this one is going to be a dragon creation. this one, again, I'm going with a green theme. So again, this is going to be a dragon with sort of toadstools on it, but I wanted him to be more like a leaf dragon, if that makes sense. Although he's more of a sort of serpent. I made him a bit more snake-like in his features, and as you'll see, I made a very long kind of swishy tail for him. So you'll see here I'm having to work this white quite hard. This took a while to soften up, so make sure you've got good strong hands for this project. Okay. So you'll see here the long tail. I'm just trying to get it into position, and then I used a mix of greens to create his leaf tail and some extra leaves on the body. Okay, so I don't need all of this, I'm just going to section it off. And again, so for the tail, I notice I'm just cutting this off here, and what I was trying to do was mix the two together, just like that, kind of like a candy cane. I wanted him to have like a green end of his tail. I think if I did this again, I would probably bring the green up a little bit further, but as I said, today was about experimenting. So I'm just trying to curl it around to get it into position. I was giving it like a vine kind of look. So then here I'm mixing this vibrant green together with the slightly darker green, and this is going to be the base for the leaves. And I actually love it when you can see the different like veins of colour come through, so I was trying not to over mix it. So this one is my water dragon, and this one I actually made for a friend who loves dragons and also really likes the colour blue. And I know what you're thinking, where's the green leaf dragon? Well, don't worry, you will see him at the end when they're all finished. I wanted to give you guys a teaser and then show you what they look like at the end. So for this one, again, a similar technique, using the white and then blending several blues together. And for this one I wanted to give him a blue body, but more like a sky light blue, which I didn't have, so I ended up doing a lot of mixing for this one. But you'll have to let me know when you get to the end of the video if you think it turned out pretty good. So again, just like the leaf dragon. I'm just blending this blue into the white. Just give it a good twist. Blending those threads of colour together. Just keep twisting. So this twisting technique helps it to blend in, but obviously when you're rolling it out it then lengthens, so you have to double it back over again and just keep working at it. This is probably the most time consuming part of the whole make. So you can see here how well all the blues have mixed. We've got this really nice icy kind of thread going through. So here I'm actually making part of the wings, which is why I wanted to keep this nice pattern going all the way through. And it's getting a little bit sticky. It's quite warm in the studio, so it was starting to stick a bit more to my table. And now I can start carving it down into the shape I want. So this is all the leftover pieces, and this is what I ended up blending together with a chunk of the white to create the pale blue for the body. So again, this took a little while to mix it all together to try and give me that sky blue I was looking for. Just keep rolling, just keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Just twist and roll, twist and roll. It's just as simple as that. And here we are. This is our light blue. It's still got that really nice pattern running through it. So that's our body starting to take shape. So I'm going to lengthen the tail. Just get it that nice gradient that I want, and then I'm going to thin out this bit here, ready for the head and the neck. And then just try and position him. He's a very dinky little dragon. Just twist the tail up there. He's got a bit of a floppy head. Then we bring our wings back in, and I might have to size these down because they're a little bit big, and just wiggle his tail out the way. There we go. So this part was a little bit trial and error, just to get them sitting how I wanted to. Okay, just try and make sure they're positioned. And then I could start adding my details. So I added some dark blue for the like scales and some little spikes. Just all the little bits that really give it character and bring it to life. Okay. This was actually quite therapeutic, this part. I feel like the hard part had already been done. Okay, just delicately push those on. Okay, I'm trying to give them little points. They look like chocolate drops, but blue. And then the extremely fiddly part, making little horns and ears and extra bits for the head. This was super fiddly, and I did have a couple of mishaps. But once I got him in the oven and everything was baked solid, it was fine. As you can see, the clay was getting very warm at this point and was trying to fight me a little bit. Okay, let's just twist that. So now he's got his legs and his claws on. He's really starting to come into his own. Just time to add some extra bits. So fiddly. I think in future these parts I might bake separately and then glue on afterwards. As I said, this is still a relatively new process for me, so I might have to try different techniques out before making another video. Okay, so cute. Okay, so So the last little bit I'm going to do on him is give him some scale texture. Just push this lightly into the clay. Okay. Just the one side, I don't want to make circles, I'm just pushing little semicircles into the surface, trying to be careful to avoid all the details I've just put on. So, as promised, here they are. We've got my turtle in the middle, who is quite heavy now. He's a bit of a chonk. But I think the glaze really makes it pop. Looks really nice. So this is Mr. Turtle. Then we have my white shroom dragon. And then finally our little blue one here. So this was super fun, and I'm so glad I got back into making videos with you guys. Here is the Mod Podge gloss for anyone who's interested. It gives a really high shine to any product. So thank you guys so much for watching and being patient with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.